I like to work with complex data, with qualitative data, to develop models of complex phenomena. This was a Sharing Cities wheel I developed a few years ago. Some of you may have seen, and it's going to change any second now. So, or not. Wow, 20 seconds lasts longer than I thought. I developed 68 indicators with a team to actually measure smart cities around the world and benchmark them. Barcelona regularly ended up in the top 10, and that's why I got invited to Barcelona, because they paid me to rank them higher in the ranks. I'm joking. But 68 indicators, hard to look at, hard to measure, hard to visualize, so the wheel helps with that. And this is an example of how Fast Company helped me visualize the results of the data from one of my recent rankings. So with lots of imagery, the wheel helps, the images of the cities. I think that's one of the things I like to work with in terms of using more qualitative data, some secondary data, but finding ways to have that data reflect phenomena. But then I've moved on from sort of the traditional smart cities, with open data being a big part, to something I call the three generations of smart cities. The first one was tech-driven, second one was city-led but still tech-enabled, and the third one is citizen co-creation. Is what has led to kind of my transition over the last couple of years, as Santi mentioned. So I started doing a lot of research in the smart city space, and I became increasingly interested through observation of this sort of evolution of the smart cities arena. And now what I would consider the co-creation with citizens as Smart Cities 3.0, which is Barcelona is really active in right now, is really about the sharing city space. This book came out just a month or two ago. Fantastic book for any of you interested in this area. It's sort of an intersection of sustainable cities and smart cities, and really embraces a whole holistic approach to thinking about the sharing economy. That is not my book, by the way. This is research I did recently looking at business models in the sharing economy, particularly in how it impacts cities. So this is looking at sustainable consumption and production. We looked at 18 different types of activities in sharing and mapped how they relate to the impacts on cities themselves and how sustainable they are. This is a result of research I did with a colleague where we looked at 36 different business models in the sharing economy. We looked at over 100 data points from different sources from the companies, and we came up with different clusters. You've all heard of Airbnb and the problems they have in Barcelona and other cities. We want to understand what is underlying the business models of these sharing economy companies, and why are some better than others. This is an example that many of you may have seen if you're interested in the sharing economy. There's 12 different sectors of the sharing economy that are sort of being identified as opportunities for businesses. Many have been exploited by more capitalistic enterprise. Some are more by social enterprises. My colleague and I developed this model called the Sharing Business Model Compass, which has 6 components to it. And what it does is basically on the outside, we have decisions that are made in your business model that are more like platform capitalist models. And on the inside is more like commons-oriented sharing. And I'm working on an accelerator I'll talk briefly about later that focuses on the latter. So here's 6 examples I'm going to show real quick about how to break down this model based on the data we developed. So Uber. Why is Uber a problem? They're very market-oriented with surge pricing, and they're not really optimizing underutilized resources like many other sharing business models. And that's sort of, so you're able to sort of tease out why certain business models work or don't. Airbnb, what's the unique thing that's causing a problem in Barcelona and many other cities? It's this issue around underutilized. Is Airbnb really optimizing underutilized resources, which sharing economy is supposed to do? Well, when you rent out your sofa, yes. When you are an investor and you buy 10 rental properties and you convert them to rentals for tourists, not anymore is that an under-optimized resource. Avantcar, we all know, they have a more hybrid business model in the sense that they also want to have a positive impact on the environment in their cities. They look at new resources rather than use peer-to-peer resources, and they're a business-to-crowd model instead of sort of peer-to-peer. Wallapop, also based locally. What's interesting about them, they do have a hybrid model. They're not just purely capitalistic. They do see the value of creating social connections through the transactions that occur in local neighborhoods. And they're different because they're focusing on finding a new home for used resources. So rather than trying to circulate resources like car sharing does, they actually try to find a new home for a used resource. Goteo, some of you might know, is a crowdfunding platform. They have alternative transactions because there's not a cash transaction that happens between the person that puts money on their platform. They're mission-driven company, and they're very collaborative in their governance model. This is a way to try to make the model that we developed sort of come alive in a way in terms of walking through 6 different business models. Repair Cafe, there's one in Madrid, not in Barcelona yet. They don't use tech at all. There's no transaction whatsoever, and it's very collaborative, and there's about 800 of these around the world. Very interesting model, very different. I hope we have one in Barcelona in the near future. Wow, I'm talking fast. My latest book, The Emergence of the Urban Entrepreneur, comes out next month. Paulo Munoz helped me with it, and some of you might have heard of Richard Florida. He's sort of a guru in creative cities. He wrote the foreword to the book, and in a few seconds you're going to see a model I developed, which is I call the Urbanpreneur Spiral, which is based on phenomena I observed from all this research. That there's 3 factors that are driving entrepreneurship in urban environments. We have rapid urbanization, which creates a lot of opportunity and challenges on urban infrastructure. We have collaborative models like we just talked about, and we have the democratization of tools of innovation. We have things like 300 plus co-working spaces in Barcelona. We have fab labs. We have software as a service. We have lots of tools that allow us to actually collaborate and build new projects with less cost. And finally, this is an accelerator we're launching in Barcelona in a few months to promote responsible sharing economy startups in Barcelona. Thank you.